Feeling good, feeling great, feeling good. How are you? Welcome into Timeline T. I'm your host, D. Sam D, aka Sanders Jr. This is a AFC West edition of Timeline T, previewing all 8 divisions heading into this new upcoming 2023-2024 NFL season. This week we handle the West. So we'll be doing 2 live streams a week, Mondays and Thursdays. So you will get today the AFC West, as you see all the teams laid down there: Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, Broncos. You will get the NFC West on Thursday, and so on and so forth. If you want to look at the community section of the channel, I have a layout of all the weeks, all the divisions, all laid out for you in order. So tap into that if you can. Scrub Zero in the house early. What up, though? Oh, bro, you know what it is. It's that time, bro. It's that time, bro. It's just time to kick things back up a notch. Provide the content. Thank y'all for hitting that like. I do appreciate that. Oh, man. That break was a little necessary. That break was a little necessary. I ain't gonna hold you. Streaming, 5 days a week every day and all of that was a lot. But your boy is back, refreshed, ready to go. Oh, man, you know what type of time we are on. There's a lot to get into. All right, let's go ahead and bring this bed down. We're going to get into this hot and heavy early. You know where we got to start? If we're talking the AFC West, we got to start with the creme de la creme, the Kansas City Chiefs. So here we go with the Chiefs, right? We're going to go ahead and start with the overall look at the division. But one thing we need to keep an eye on is the strength of schedule. Thanks to our people over at Sharp Football Analysis, they have been locked in and tapped in with the strength of schedule stuff since the end of last season. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Boogie Down is in the house early. Sorry, Boogie Down, I can't preview Lamar on every episode, bro. I can't preview Lamar on every episode now. So we're going to, trust me, we're going to get to the North. We're going to get to the North. It's laid out right there in the community tab of the channel. The North is coming. I believe, the last 2 streams. I guess the last week of preseason, we will be doing the AFC North, and then the last stream will be the NFC North. So trust, I got you. Don't worry. And as you see here, the strength of schedule for the AFC North, take a screenshot if you want to get tapped in. But you should know what type of time I'm going to be on once we do get to the AFC North. But as you see here, Raiders have the 2nd strongest strength of schedule in the entire league. So that could be a good thing. That could be a bad thing. We will get on that once we get there. But not that far behind them is the 5th strongest strength of schedule, and that's the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs. So this is something where I'm laying this stuff out. This is information, right? I'm laying this stuff out. You can use this for betting purposes. I'm not even asking for a cut. You can use this for whatever, fantasy football implications. I'm not even asking for a cut. I'm just providing you the information. You can share it with your peoples in the group chats, and y'all can do whatever y'all do with the information. But I've been scouring the timeline and scouring the internet to find useful information to provide to y'all so that we can all come to this stream and chop it up and break it down and figure out the fact from the fiction. So the Chiefs and the Chargers have the 5th and 6th strongest strength of schedules. Will that matter this upcoming season? For one team, I think it will matter. For one of the other teams, I don't think it will matter. And then you go down not that far, the Broncos have the 10th strongest strength of schedule. So the entire AFC West, all 4 teams are in the top 10 in terms of strongest strength of schedule. Will that be a thing? Is that something that we need to keep an eye on when it comes to parlays, when it comes to win totals, over unders, all of that? Y'all let me know. So that's why Boogie Down. That's why, you know what I'm saying? Yes. Yes, sir. I'm breaking out all the divisions. Yes. So 2 this week, 2 next week. I believe it's the West this week. I believe it's the South next week. And then the week after that is the East. And then the week after that, the last week will be the North. I believe that's where we're going with it. But don't quote me, but it is there on the community tab. So it is a breakdown of 2 streams. Monday and Thursday, we're doing nothing but division previews. All right. So that's where we're at. So the AFC West, top 10, all 4 teams have the strongest strength of schedule. All of them are in the top 10. Will that affect them? So let's jump over to the Chiefs. If you're looking at the Chiefs, we know that the offensive line took a big hit as Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley are both gone. Will that matter? Now, they did replace them, and they replaced them with, let me go pull the names up here. There's so many roster changes, but Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor, they're now going to replace, Orlando Brown and Wiley. How long will that take to gel? We know how Mahomes is feeling based off we watch quarterbacks on Netflix. We know the type of time he's on. We know how angst he had against the whole thing with the Bengals and the alleged rivalry with them beating him 3 straight and Burrowhead and all of that. What is going to be the motivation for him this year? Clearly, the Bengals were the motivation for Patrick Mahomes last year in winning a chip, so on and so forth, validating the big contract that we all know has a lot of fun and money in it, but it is what it is. But what is going to be the motivation for the Kansas City Chiefs this upcoming season? Now, they were actually trying to go into this season with Kadarius Toney as their number 1 wide receiver. That's how much faith they have in Patrick Mahomes. And Kadarius Toney got hurt before he could even suit up. He got hurt on kick return drills? He got hurt on drills before the drills. So, a lot is going to happen there. Who's going to be able to step up in the absence of Kadarius Toney if he's not ready? Now, there's reports that he should be ready for week 1 of the regular season, but that's not guaranteed. So, with all that being said, if it's still going to be the Kelsey Mahomes show, how confident are you watching, that that's going to be a smooth transition like it was last year? They won a championship without a real number 1 wide receiver. They got Juju Smith-Schuster running around, Sky Moore running around. They were able to, do it with McKinnon. They were able to just figure it out. Mahomes, Kelsey, and then we'll figure out the rest later. Can they run that back again if Kadarius Toney, who was a factor once they ingratiated him into the system, can they withstand Kadarius Toney? I'll hit the chat real quick. Boogie down here heavy. Appreciate that. Chiefs will take a step back. Okay. So it's a strong schedule. It's a very tough, strength of schedule. So that could be something. Now, are you saying that because of the schedule? Or you just think Mahomes ain't it? Like, what's the rationale? I have them losing to the Ravens in the AFC title game. But that's just a very small step back. If that's the case, if they just lose in the title game, I don't think that's that big of a step back. You know what I'm saying? Being able to defend your chip or at least defend your AFC title crown in losing, I don't think that's that big of a step back. I guess technically it is, but okay, I see you. So I think the one thing to be concerned about with the Chiefs is Chris Jones. Chris Jones is not there yet. Chris Jones, we don't know what's going to happen when it comes to that schedule. Is there going to be some kind of deadline, like some drop dead date for Chris Jones and the Chiefs to come to some sort of agreement? That's a huge storyline for clearly their best defensive player and one of the better interior defensive linemen in the entire sport. So that defense, which isn't that great to begin with, them not having potentially Chris Jones, if he stands 10 toes down and tries to get his money, if they have to actually play games without Chris Jones with this 5th strongest strength of schedule, that could be a difference right there. That could be a real difference if a defense that isn't that great now has to go on the field with a subpar defense without, arguably one of the top 3, top 4 interior defensive linemen in the entire sport. So, how important is it for Chris Jones to be in the tuck in camp sooner than later? Should the Chiefs just give him his money and get it over with? This hits his peak. This is going to be the height of his earning potential. Another Super Bowl championship. He's one of the few holdovers from that first championship from years back. So him and Mahomes together have won 2 championships. If you're the Chiefs, and look, I don't want to get into the whole money thing. I'm trying to keep this straight about the actual players on the field and previewing the season. But you kind of can't forget the fact that the Chiefs owner has already told Mahomes, I'll never be able to pay you your true value. Are they going to try to get that off with Chris Jones? I think it's hard to believe. I think they need to give Chris Jones his money because that defense is not that strong. Let's see if they made any real strong improvements on that defense. We see the people that they signed. Let's see. Nandi, Tranquil, Mike Edwards. Nope, I don't see anything impactful here defensively. In the draft, Uzuma, I don't see anything here significant in terms of a defensive addition. So it's still Chris Jones and 10 other dudes when it comes to that defense. So, yeah, they need to go ahead and give Chris Jones whatever he needs for him to show up and be active in camp. Not holding in like how Jonathan Taylor is with the Indianapolis Colts. Like actually showing up to camp, happy, fresh new money in the bank account, and away we go. So the Kansas City Chiefs, clearly I still feel they're the cream of this division. I don't see any team knocking them off. I think the Chargers are a team that can threaten them, but the Chargers always find a way to Chargers. They couldn't even get past Jacksonville in the playoffs with the big-ass lead last year. So I think the Chiefs, even with this, fifth hardest schedule in the league, I still feel that they go ahead and get the job done in the AFC West. So let me your thoughts there. Do you think it's the Chiefs coming out this division as a division champion? Or do you feel they could slip and potentially be a wild card team? You let me know. And whether you're watching this live in the chat or on the replay in the comments, I'm active on both ends. Pause. So we will slide now over to the Los Angeles Chargers. Now we see them here right after. Let me get my little, let me come here, get my little highlighter thing. I forgot I didn't have my Pro Mouse activated. That is my bad. All right, so you see here, and I see it. Cool. So now we have, wait for that to connect. There we go. Right behind them, in terms of strongest strength of schedule, which is, i.e., the hardest schedule. So we had the Patriots with the hardest, then the Raiders, then Dolphins, Bills. So a lot of AFC teams, AFC East and the AFC West, have the hardest schedules as you see here. So now we have the Chiefs with the 5th hardest schedule. With the 6th hardest schedule is the Los Angeles Chargers. So now, where do we go with the Chargers? Obviously, they gave Justin Herbert, your man's right here, his bread. He is now the highest paid QB if you include the funny money, with the highest average was at $52.5 million. $52.5 million they have invested heavily into your man's Jay Herbo. They gave him even more weapons. Quentin Johnston, TCU, big addition, big target, a la Keenan Allen and Mike Williams who are already there. So they could run trips. They could run 11. They could do a lot of creative things. Austin Eckler, even though he was the catalyst to get the running backs on a Zoom and try to figure out why they keep getting shortchanged, he's in camp. He's going to take his medicine, but he wants a new deal. But for him to get that new deal, unfortunately for him, but fortunately for the Chargers, he's going to have to ball out yet again. So Eckler, Johnston in the tuck now, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, it's all gravy for your man's Jay Herbo, and it should be another relatively easy season of putting big numbers up when you have weapons like that. So Justin Herbert, the offense isn't the problem in LA. The defense has a lot of names. When you talk about Khalil Mack, you're talking about Bosa. It's a lot of names. But is the defense actually worth a damn? Now, if y'all know me or if y'all don't know me, I'm not a big fan of just edge pressure guys. Something I learned that back in high school. Edge rushing is cool, but you got to get the push up the middle. That is easier to disrupt. That is more impactful to disrupt than somebody coming off the edge. So with Bosa on one end and Khalil Mack on the other, where do we think the problem lies for the Chargers? I think it's Bosa on one end and Khalil Mack on the other. I think problematic could be the thing there. I think, unfortunately, when you're looking at, and we see Corey's joined the chat, and he's automatically bringing up Kellen Moore because he's a Cowboys guy, so he was very happy to see Kellen Moore, and I wanted to make sure I have that highlighted. Kellen Moore replaces Joe Lombardi. So, I don't know if Lombardi was the issue in Dallas. I'm sure Corey will say that he was, but I think it's kind of hard to screw this offense up when you got Williams, Allen, Eckler, and now you went and got Quentin Johnston in the draft, who I was very high on because of the catch radius. I don't see how you can trick this off. If Kellen Moore does, I will be right here to destroy him. But as you see here, it was a very pedestrian passing game in yards per attempt, 6.4 yards per attempt. If you want to go in terms of the Kellen Moore offense, Dak Prescott did have 8.18 air yards per attempt. So you would assume by this metric, they're going to air the rock out even more with Kellen Moore at the helm. We'll see if that's a thing. Let me see. Let's hit the chat one time. Boogie down Chargers are not contenders as long as Herbert is QB. He a choke artist. The whole team choked definitely against Jacksonville in the playoffs last year. That was embarrassing. I think there is something to the Chargers always charging. Like I always say, the Lions will always lion. And they might prove me wrong because they actually have a legit squad this year. But historically, basically my entire life, even with Barry Sanders, even the next generation when they had Megatron, the Lions will always find a way to lion. The Chargers have kind of been that also in my lifetime. The Chargers will always find a way to charger, whether it was Drew Brees, whether it was now with the Justin Herbert version, whether it was, the Junior Seau version back in the day, Humphreys and all that. Like, the Chargers will always find a way to charger. Tomlinson, like, they always find a way to trick it off. I think that's going to be the case again this year, but I do think they get back to the playoffs. Now, for me, as I've been saying, it's the defense for me. When you look at, as you see, they really try to address the defense with even more edge help. Again, ignoring, in my opinion, the lack of interior push. And you see, they lost a lot of interior D linemen and didn't really replace them. And Morgan Fox is okay. Nicholas Williams, I'm not familiar with, but Morgan Fox is okay. But again, I don't see a lot of push. I'm not predicting a lot of push. Eric Kendricks is a solid pickup. But in regards to interior push, I think that's going to be the downfall of the defense. Because the defense, the secondary at one point was very strong, but then they lost a lot in terms of injuries and free agency over the last few years. So I'm not sure what the strength of this defense is. Yes, they have names in terms of Bosa and Khalil Mack, but outside of that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that's why the chat is there, and that's why if you watch this on the replay, the comment section is there. If you think I'm bugging, let me know, but I don't think I'm bugging. I think the Chargers defense is the Achilles heel, and I think more importantly, the fact that they have wagered so much on edge rushing instead of interior line play, I think that will be the rule that really gets them about the paint very quickly if and when they actually do make the playoffs, most likely as a wild card. Back to the chat. Let's see. Scrub Zero got the Chiefs winning the division. Okay, I agree. I mean, look, if someone thinks that the Chargers or the Broncos could maybe sneak in there and take the division, let me know that take. Give me the reasons why. I want a book report on why you think that could happen. Boogie down. Herbert got 3 top-tier pass catching options as well as a top 6 running back. This man has no more excuses. Yeah, see, I don't put the emphasis, like, he'll get the pressure, right? He's the highest paid QB. until Burrow signs, until Mahomes redoes his deal, Justin Herbert is the highest paid QB in the league, right? So he's going to get inherent pressure just off that hard stop. I think it's going to be more about the defense. It's going to be more about the coaching if this doesn't end well this year. They're not winning a Super Bowl, okay? So this season is going to end in a loss. It's just how deep are they going to be able to get before that L comes? Is it going to be another wild card weekend defeat? Can they make it to the second round? Can they even make a run to the championship game? Offensively, with the talent they have, they should be able to make that type of run. Unfortunately, coaching in defense is going to hold them back. By how much are they going to hold them back? That's going to be the key with the Los Angeles Chargers. Scrub Zero, well, Chargers finna miss the playoffs, only got them winning 9 games. Okay, so no wild card out the AFC West. Okay, I like it. I like it. Boogie Down, he got the complexion for the protection. He, quote, looks the part. Well, that's, I mean, Josh Allen, you could throw them all in there with that. Burrow. Corey is airing out Kellen Moore. That is a thing that happened. Let's not forget that. He did have backup interior linemen running routes in that playoff game. But it was a nice play design. Scrub Zero, it's the Chargers. They stay falling short. That's facts, though. That's facts. Boogie Down, Phillip Rivers greater than Herbert. Rivers beat Peyton a few times in the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, it's not. Yes. Right now, Phillip Rivers, although, I mean, way big sample size. I mean, Rivers has some stacked offenses, too, now. Let's not act like he was out there doing it dolo. I mean, he had LT. He had Antonio Gates. I mean, he had a lot of help, too. So I don't know if I want to. I don't know. Yes, for right now, but I think that's only because of longevity. Okay, I'm not going to say like that is definitive, case is closed, because Rivers had a lot of help too. Corey Herbert is nice though. Me and Boogie Down, me and Scrub Zero talking the same. Never really fair to compare Herbert to Rivers. Kid has only been in the league for 3 years. Yep, I agree. Boogie Down pushing back. Okay, it is fair. All right. I think the Chargers, Scrub Zero, I think the Chargers will be as bad, if not worse, in key situations offensively. 3rd down, 2-minute, the high leverage moments. That's interesting because I'm kind of leaning the other way. I think, the fact that they could go 11 personnel. And I mean, who has the talent to line up when they go 11 personnel? That's asking a lot of a defense, especially when that one is Eckler. Like it's a lot there. I'm kind of going opposite that way. I'm kind of going the opposite. I think they'll actually be better or be more improved. I'm not the biggest Kellen Moore guy. I just think if you're at this level, at that position, and I give you Eckler out the backfield, I give you Keenan Allen as your number 1, I give you Mike Williams as a number 2, and then I go out there and I draft Quentin Johnston as a guy that you could line up damn near anywhere as your 3, so you could do 11 personnel. I'm just like, how do you screw that up? And, we could talk about the tight end position. I mean, Parham, I'm not the biggest Parham guy, but sure, serviceable. They still got Josh Palmer, right? Still got Palmer, I believe, as well. They could go quads. I mean, it's a lot there. It's a lot to work with in that frame. But the key thing with the Chargers is their strength of schedule is crazy. Okay? And there were some good numbers here. Where were they? There was a good stat here. Okay, so last year, they tied for a league low 6 games against opponents with a winning record. And they went 1-5 in those games. Okay? It's a good stat. League low 6 games against opponents with a winning record, and they were 1-5 in those games. So are the Chargers paper champions? And we know that they're not really champions, but you know. I thought it was another good stat about how inept they were. Okay, so the over-under on them is 9.5 games. I think Scrub Zero said he had 9 games, right? So he's taking the under. Over under 9.5 games for the Chargers. Now remember, they have the 6th most difficult schedule in the league. I just read the stat about how they were against winning teams last year. They only had 6 games against winning teams last year, and they were 1-5 in those games. You could argue with all the losses they've had on defense and not really supplanting that with new and fresh, better talent on defense, that they've taken an even bigger step back defensively. Does that mean that the under is going to be hit pretty easy for the Chargers at 9.5? Let me know in the chat, live on the replay, in the comments, over under 9.5 wins for the Los Angeles Chargers. Scrub Zero, Kellen Morris, why I don't have confidence in that offense. I mean, it's fair. I just find it hard to trick that off, man. I just find it difficult to trick that off, yo. I find it really difficult with those weapons to trick. I mean, if he does, like I said, I'll be here every week. You know, breaking this shit down, recapping what happens. So obviously stay locked in, subscribe if you haven't already. So we'll be here easy every week. And if he's tricking this offense off with that much talent, number one, he's going to trick off a lot of fantasy teams. But I mean, it's going to be really problematic if he can't get this done. If Kellen Moore can't get this done, then I don't know if he gets another chance. He's well liked around the league, but I don't know if he gets another chance if he can't make this work. We've seen some wild things in the NFL. Wouldn't be surprised. No, I mean, I guess you're right. So I guess it wouldn't surprise me, but it's just like, yo, dogs, I hand you this and you can't hand me back. This should be a top 10 offense, right? This should be a top 10 offense. Easy. I could even push a little higher, but I'll just pick a safe number and say this should be a top 10 offense. But with this coaching staff, with that defense, I don't know if that equals more than 10 wins. This is a really good number set by Vegas. And this is why the house always wins, because this is a really hard decision. When I factor in the defense is not great, when I factor in the coaching staff has not given you any reason to have confidence in them, and then I layer that on top of they have the 6th hardest schedule in the league, and they have a division where they can't beat Patrick Mahomes. It's tough. Real tough. Let's see what else we got here. Boogie down. How many coaches will Herbert run through? At some point, Herbert needs to have some accountability. Well, it's just coordinated so far, right? He came in with Staley, right? I think this is Staley's last year. If they get embarrassed like how they were tricking off that lead last year to the Jaguars, if they get embarrassed or if they lose in some kind of fashion akin to that, or if they don't even make the playoffs, I think Staley's gone. I mean, you could argue 2 years ago when he tricked off the playoff berth with the tie bullshit that he should have been gone then. But then get into the playoffs last year, but then blowing that lead to the Jaguars and looking clueless in doing so. Yeah. Who was the one that was wilding on the sideline? Was that Bosa, right? That was Bosa that was wilding on the sideline, that was frustrated. Yeah. I think it's his last year. Oh, he was there with Lynn? I didn't recall that. Okay. He was there with Lynn. Copy that. Okay. Copy that. All right, but then, I mean, look, I think Lynn was I won't say the obvious thing, right? I think once they realized they had something in Jay Herbo, they knew they had to get rid of Anthony Lynn. I'm not saying it's justified, but we know how that game goes, right? Staley was thought to be a guy that was supposed to fix the defense while they hand the keys over to Lombardi with the offense. And now Lombardi's not there. Staley has looked like, deer in the headlights for the couple seasons he's been there. Yeah, I don't think he makes it. I don't think he makes it. I think they got rid of Lynn in favor of Staley because of Jay Herbo, right? I don't think Jay Herbo had a say, but I think in terms of, all right, we're going to get another football mind in here. We know it was bullshit, but in essence, they wanted to have someone who could at least take care of the defense. We just unearthed this, Justin Herbert. We have a ready-made offense. It's been the same dudes are still there. Williams still there, Keenan Allen's still there, Eckler's still there. So it's the same skill set players. We found the QB, offense is taken care of. Now we just need someone to fix his defense. It's been 2 seasons heading into year 3 with this defense, and the defense is still basura. Yeah, they have a Bosa. Yeah, they went out and made the big splash of trading for Khalil Mack, but I mean, not much else. Not much else. Lynn was a scapegoat his first year. Now I see Charger fans complaining about Staley, and then I can now see people saying Kellen Moore will be to blame. Yes, I have seen Charger fans complain. I mean, I think the entire league is complaining about Staley because, that shit he pulled a couple of years ago, what was it, against Vegas, right? I was against the Raiders. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And I'm telling you, I believe it was Bosa, seeing Bosa wow out like that on the sidelines during that playoff game while they're tricking off that huge lead, like that was very telling. Didn't he throw his helmet or some wild shit and drew a flag and got me? Yeah, he was bugging. He was bugging. Staley's been a disappointment since he's gone to the Wall Chargers. Yeah, no, the Chargers have been problematic. Chargers have definitely been problematic, but we'll slide off of them. I think we've given them enough attention. So I think the Chargers have a lot of potential. I think the Chargers should be a team that can offensively compete with the Chiefs. Unfortunately, the defense has been subpar to inferior the last 3 to 4 years, easy. Now, with I think even more losses this past offseason, I see them taking another step back, unless some people we don't know flash, which is possible, right? As we said earlier, nothing could shock us. It could be surprising that the Chargers have a good defense. They will certainly prove me wrong, right? But I think the lack of coaching, the ineptitude of Staley, combined with a subpar defense, an inferior defense, add on to that the 6th hardest schedule in the league. Plus, as great as our offense could be, we know Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are always banged up. And I think that's why they went out there and got Quentin Johnston. And now we got Austin Eckler, who's mad about his money. He's out here getting running backs on Zooms across the league to bitch and complain. Deservedly so, but let's call it what it is. So how will he be playing? There's a lot of question marks here with the Chargers, and that's why I'm going to go with Scrub Zero. I think I'm taking the under when it comes to 9.5 for the Los Angeles Chargers for all the reasons I laid out. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know in the chat, live, on the replay, in the comments. All right, so now let's slide over to Mr. Unlimited. Mr. Unlimited. New coach, new system, new belief in Denver. Sean Payton has brought in a lot of the Shanahan offense into the Mile High City. Russell Wilson, who had the red carpet rolled out for him last year. Let Russ cook. Russ looked cooked. Now, how will this be different this year? They have the weapons. I also have some injuries with some of those weapons, but on paper, they have the weapons. How will that work out now with Sean Payton, who's coming in and he's doing the opposite of what Hackett did last year? The thing Hackett went out there, he was trying to be everybody's friend, right? Sean Payton is going out there. He's laying the hammer down. He is taking no shit from no one. He's leaning very heavily on that one ring he got with them Saints all them years ago because of a damn onside kick. But he is using that to weaponize and to whip people into shape in Denver. Will it work? Will it matter? They have no draft capital to speak of because of the Russell Wilson trade and even the Sean Payton transaction. So it's not like they could improve greatly in the draft. So did they improve via free agency? Let's take a look. Let me know when you see a name that matters. Pirine? Samaje Perine? Any of y'all rocking with Callaway, Marquez Callaway? Let me know when you see a name that matters. Jordan Jackson? Frank Clark? Stolen from the Chiefs? Again, let me know when you see a name that matters. We can go into the draft. And again, remember, they have very limited draft capital because of the Russell Wilson deal and the Sean Payton transaction. So I don't see a lot here. Frank Clark is a name, but I trust the Chiefs in realizing the juice was not worth the squeeze. You want to give me Pirine? Sure. But isn't Williams supposed to be the... All right, let me not say nothing. So, the Broncos, let's start with their strength of schedule, right? Strength of schedule, they are in the top 10. Now, you see their over-under is 8.5. This is a lot of faith in Sean Payton. 8.5 over-under for the Denver Broncos this year. Just off not really going too crazy, I'm taking the under, but let's peek at the schedule a little bit and see if there's something we could pick out. Now, they have to play the Chargers twice and the Chiefs twice. And they have what appears to be, let's see, is that all of them? Yep. They have the 10th hardest schedule in the league. 10th hardest schedule in the league. Okay? So, Raiders had the second hardest, 5th and 6th for the Chiefs and the Chargers, and then rounding out the top 10 is the Broncos. Is that a reason why they could squeak out 8.5 wins? Is that the reason why the line is set at 8.5? No more Bradley Chubb, he's gone. The acquisitions of Russell Wilson and Sean Payton totaled 3 first and 3 second round picks. So again, they could not do anything in regards to the draft. And then there's 3 straight road games late in the season. Again, a lot of this stuff I'm giving you is my opinion and my analysis, but I'm also giving you stuff that could be used for fantasy purposes, that could be used for over-under purposes, that could be used for parlays, so on and so forth. So information is key here. There's a brutal stretch between week 13 to 15, and the Broncos are all on the road. And again, with a top 10 most difficult schedule, yikes, okay? Denver was 4-9 in one-score games last year. They lost 5 games by 3 points or fewer. Is that why the line is at 8.5? Are the Broncos actually a good team, but Hackett was so horrible in combination with Russell Wilson not being able to cook that was the issue, not necessarily that the roster was devoid of talent? Denver was 4-9 in one-score games. That usually means that the team is just unfortunate. Not that they're necessarily bad or trash or basura. This usually just means, they just couldn't score enough or they couldn't get a key stop. Well, defensively, Frank Clark should be an addition. They traded away Bradley Chubb to the Dolphins during the season. They go sign Frank Clark in the offseason. I think it's more of a wash, but you could sell yourself into thinking that's an upgrade. Offensively, just having Sean Payton over whatever the hell Nathaniel Hackett was trying to do should be an upgrade. Now, the run game could be a little spotty, but they go out there and they get reinforcements with Pirine. Take him from the Bengals, give him some bread, probably promise him way more touches, quasi-starting role, and away we go. So are the Broncos actually going to be a team that's better than what we think they are? See, the pass defense was exceptionally strong, allowing a league low in yards per pass attempt. I mean, that could be because they give up a lot of rush yards, but okay. They had a lot of injuries. Y'all can see that and read that there. I don't know. I'm very intrigued by the 8.5 number. That stands out to me. But the fact that we went through this whole thing and we don't see a lot of improvements, if we're thinking Sean Payton, I mean, they're certainly paying Sean Payton like he is that big of an improvement, but you still need talent. He still needed a Drew Brees. He still needed a Reggie Bush. He still needed all those guys he had in New Orleans on both sides of the ball, by the way, to be able to get it done. I don't see that type of equivalent of talent on this roster akin to what he had in New Orleans all those years. I don't see a Marcus Colston. Yeah, they have some receivers here, but Jerry Jeudy's got to show us something, right? Cortland Sutton's got to show us something, right? I mean, allegedly, both of them were on the block leading up to the draft. Both of them were on the block, allegedly. So, we need to see something. Can Russ cook? Scrub 0. So you're taking the over. We winning 9 games this year and missing the playoffs. On paper, I still think they're void of talent. This is Denver you're speaking of, I'm assuming. Frank Clark on the 18th hole. Everybody else is either improving or just guys. Yeah, I agree. For sure. So Denver, I'm not going to stay too long on Denver because I don't think that there's that much to go over here. But when you look at what they have, it's really just swapping out Hackett for Sean Payton. Sean Payton is coming in there. He's running a tight ship. He's talking big talk. He's talking heavy. He's talking down on players. He's trying to change the culture, getting it more of a football mentality rather than the laissez-faire players run the show, allegedly atmosphere that Nathaniel Hackett tried to usher in with your man's Russell Wilson last year. So a change of attitude, a change of mentality, philosophy, so on and so forth with what's going on in Denver. Not that much of a change in terms of roster. So if we're running it back, but just with allegedly a better coach, a Mr. Unlimited reality check, with Russell Wilson realizing he ain't him anymore? Is that really a team that can compete? 8.5 games? You taking the over or the under? So whether you're watching this live on the replay, over under for the Denver Broncos, 8.5. With the 10th hardest schedule in the league, I'm going to go under. So under 8.5 for the Denver Broncos. Which leads us now. I got to do this right here. Didn't have time to fully set that up. Where is it? That leads us to the Oakland. Oh, excuse me. Hopefully that'll be the first and only time I do that this year. That leads us to the Las Vegas Raiders. Okay. So The Las Vegas Raiders, they told Derek Carr to go home and never come back. They cleaned house. They got a lot of old John Gruden, Mike Mayock bodies up off that roster. This should be a rebuild. There were rumors of Davante Adams potentially being moved. Josh Jacobs is on the franchise tag. They went out there and flirted with Aaron Rodgers, allegedly. They went out there and have Tom Brady in the owner's box, but not on the field. What do we have to say for the Las Vegas Raiders? Because you talk about a roster in flux. They traded away Darren Waller. They got rid of a lot of dudes, a lot of perplexing moves. This is the people that they signed. Let's go to the people that they lost and talk about that. Derek Carr, we know about. Mac Hollins gone. Not that he's special, but guy that was pretty good for them. Darren Waller, Foster Moreau was also good in the absence of Waller. Both tight ends gone. Clelin Ferrell, we know what that is. That's just a do-over from the whole, John Gruden, Mayock regime. This is a lot of people that they've gotten rid of, bruh. This is a lot of dudes that are gone. Perryman, it's a lot of dudes that are gone, bruh. You talk about a roster overhaul, that is what the Las Vegas Raiders have done. Okay? So, the main thing is they have a new QB. And it's a QB that is mid. It is QB that is, no one thinks highly of, but is serviceable. Jimmy Garoppolo is the definition of serviceable. Now you talk about Jacoby Myers, Philip Dorsett, O.J. Howard, Austin Hooper. So you trade Darren Waller, you let Foster Moreau walk, and you bring in the ageless one, Austin Hooper, and O.J. Howard, who has all the skill sets in the world, but little production to back it up. Shaky. Tyree Wilson was a good pull. I'm very high on Michael Mayer, so I think Mayer will end up being the tight end of the future. At least they certainly would hope so. He did slide in the first round, or out the first round, right? But Tyree Wilson, I think, was a solid pick. Again, more of an edge guy. Yeah, I know how I feel about edge guys, but it is what it is. Byron Young, I've heard good things. I'm not going to stake my rep on it, but I've heard good things. But yeah. The Raiders are just kind of stuck in parity land. There's no real way to get better with this roster makeup. The fact that they gave all that money to Davante Adams to reunite him with his college QB, thinking that they were going to run it back to Fresno State days, and then you get rid of his college QB 1 year in, how would you feel if you're Davante Adams right now? Yeah, the money's the money. He probably would have came anyway, even if they didn't have Derek Carr, pause. But you have to fill away. And Davante Adams has kind of admitted as such with some of his cryptic comments early in the offseason of like, yo, this isn't really what I signed up for. I signed up to play with my college QB, and then you tell him to go home and never come back before the season was over last year. So now I got to catch passes from Jimmy G. I got Jacoby Myers, who, tricked off that game last year to help the Raiders win when he was a Patriot last year. So, I mean, there's a lot to make of here. The thing is, there's not a lot of wins to make of here. And we'll get to the schedule. Let's see here. Let's get to the schedule. 5.5 games, over, under. They have the second hardest schedule in the league. The second hardest schedule in the league for a roster that looked like it lost about 20 dudes. And a lot of them were starters or rotation guys. That's a lot of upheaval, bro. They tied for the league high with 13 one-score games, but finished with a 4-9 record and a -7 turnover differential in those games. So now you can look at the 13 one-score games and try to fool yourself into thinking that, all right, well, maybe they're actually good. They just weren't good enough in one-score games. They didn't have enough clutch plays. But then you go to the -7 turnover differential, and then all that shit goes to bed. All that shit goes to bed because that goes to Derek Carr, who, I was having debates with people on ESPN radio last year whether he was a top 10 QB. That was a real thing that happened. I wished I was here on YouTube. That was a real discussion. Like, people were really trying to battle me over whether Derek Carr was top 10. And I'm like, I defy you to, like, who are you putting in? Like, it was wild. Anyway, let's see. The one strength that I'll talk about, and is highlighted here, the offensive line returns all 5 starters, and, they got the whole Josh Jacobs thing, but Josh Jacobs has not showed up yet. So, unlike Saquon, who got on that Zoom and then, went back to the Giants and took whatever little bullshit improvement, which was no improvement. All they did was move $2 million of the $10 million he was going to get in the franchise tag anyway. They moved it up front to a signing bonus. Okay, so he was able to cash out on that bread early instead of waiting for that bread. So Saquon sold out against the NFL running backs just for extra $900K and 2 of the 10 point whatever he was going to be owed in the franchise tag anyway, up front. So Josh Jacobs is still holding it down, trying to get his bag. He's not going to get that bag because when you're in the same line as Tony Pollard and Saquon, and they both took the deal, you're the only one that didn't take the deal. Yes, I know you led the league in rushing, but you have next to no leverage. His only leverage is not playing. And even that has its limitations. He could hold in like Jonathan Taylor, but right now, chilling at the crib, he's going to get fined. I'll hit the chat. Y'all going in on the, let's see. I got to go back a little bit. Okay, yeah. Russell is toast. Okay, we'll go back there. Russell is toast. Boogie down. Yep. Look like a deer in headlights. Yeah. He might be on that 18th hole as well with Frank Clark. I think he got carried by that all-time great defense and run game. That's for sure. I mean, the one time they tried to put it in his hands against the Patriots, what happened on the goal line? Script 0. I got the over for the Broncos, but I don't have confidence to put money on it. No, I agree with you. Schedule's tough too, though. That Seahawks defense is up there with the 2000 Ravens. Yeah, for sure. LOB, for sure. Script 0. Pats West going to come up short. Yeah, I don't know how. I'm very surprised McDaniels survived. Really surprised McDaniels survived. Script 0, I still don't trust McDaniels at head coach. You shouldn't. If he proves me wrong, good for him. I just don't see it happening. Yeah, he's giving you no reason to believe that he can be good at the job. This is now his second time around in the same division, and he's looked shaky in the light in both jobs. Hopefully this will be the last job. Hopefully this will be the last opportunity. Like, I don't need to see this again. I'm taking the under for Patriots West. Okay, so what's that, 5.5? So you're taking the under on 5.5. There it is, for 5.5 games. Okay. Boogie down, DC is trash. DC as in Derek Carr for those who are unhip. Boogie down, Jacob should get paid. He should, but he won't. He's the reason that offense actually had any level of success. Yeah, I mean, he led the league in rushing. And to me, the really interesting thing about it was that it wasn't meaningless yards. It wasn't empty yards. Like, Josh Jacobs was really out there, like, getting yards against good defenses. Like, he wasn't just killing cupcakes. Like, he was really putting up good games against good defenses. So that to me means a lot. Very good O-line, and you see that they're bringing the whole O-line back. But I think him just being able to flash, show the speed, show the power to finish runs, be able to get short yardage runs off, convert on third and short. Like that to me is what matters when you're trying to be a 3-down back and a top tier back. And he had breakaway speed. Like, Scrub Zero, it was a real thing. Derek Carr top 10 it wasn't being middle of the pack. He's certainly top 10 in that. As an NFL QB, I can't vouch for that. Yeah, it was a time where, it was weird, man. I'll just say this. Like, people were naming QBs that should be in the top 10, but they kept finding ways to sneak Derek Carr in there. And I'm like, well, I must be crazy. So then I went on the DCMD podcast, link in the description, and I was asking, is Derek Carr top 10? Maybe I'm missing something. You know what I'm saying? But certainly you can't make that case now. I mean, I don't even know if Derek Carr is, it's 32 teams? Is he even top 16? I don't even know if Derek Carr is top 16. Boogie down. I judge a QB by 3 metrics. It really has to be a mixture of individual stats, team success, and the eye test. You need all 3 to be a great QB. I think that's a pretty solid baseline metric. I think that's solid. For me, I always look at the talent around him as well. That's something I always look at first. And that's why, me and Boogie Down always team Lamar, because for the individual success that he was able to have and the team success he was able to have, despite whatever you may think of him as a QB from a pure QB perspective and your eye test as a pure QB, he did all of that with nothing around him. And you're not seeing that with other QBs in this league. All these other QBs that we prop up, they all have, leading into this year, because now Lamar has help. Okay? Hard stop. But prior to this year, there were QBs that were being lauded, that were being assumed better than Lamar, that had way more help around Lamar. Like, well, that's not a level playing field. How can you judge Justin Herbert's success against Lamar? How can you judge Josh Allen's success against Lamar? To me, it's not fair. How can you judge Tua Tagovailoa's success against Lamar? You can't do that. Like, if you would have give Lamar Tyreek Hill and Waddle, what do you think would happen? If you would give Lamar Jackson, Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, what do you think would happen? If we gave Lamar Jackson Stephon Diggs, what do you think would happen? If we gave Lamar Jackson, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, what do you think would happen with Joe Mixon and P-Ron behind him? What do you think would happen? Like, so it's just like you can't do that when he's throwing to Sammy Watkins. You can't. You can't give me the comparison. Look it out. Supporting cats, death factors in. Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, so 5.5 games for the Raiders. I'm going to take the under. They have the second hardest schedule in the league. They have not improved greatly on either side of the ball. They have a running back that doesn't want to show up for work because he's vastly underpaid. Corey Davis makes more money than him. Okay? Corey Davis makes more money than a leading rusher in the NFL. Never forget that. Take that to y'all group chats. Take that to, the timeline. Corey Davis makes more money than Josh Jacobs. When someone asks, well, why are these running backs tripping? Why are these guys who are millionaires, why are they complaining about not making enough millions? No. Corey Davis makes more money than Josh Jacobs, the leading rusher in the NFL. Okay? So, under on the Raiders because of the schedule, because of the fact that we don't know what's going to happen with Josh Jacobs. And even if he is there, him leading the league and rushing didn't help them that much in regards to wins because they have McDaniels as coach. Now they have, I think, a regression at QB with Jimmy G. And it's just going to be Devonta Adams going to be getting bracket coverage because he's got nobody on the opposite side. Do they even still have Hunter Renfrow? Did they bring him back? They really going to have Jacoby Myers as the number 2? Like that's, nah. I am taking the under on the Las Vegas Raiders. A lot of unders. I don't think we did the Chiefs. What was the Chiefs number? I think that was the only one we forgot to do. 11.5. Fifth hardest schedule in the league. What are we thinking for the Kansas City Chiefs? Y'all let me know in the chat. Y'all let me know in the comments if you're watching the replay. 11.5 for the Chiefs. Again, fifth hardest schedule in the league. Okay? If y'all could do me a favor, hit that like button if you haven't already. I do appreciate that. The algorithm does too, apparently. So I would appreciate the like button being hit. Let's see. Script 0, Corey Flippy Davis. Yeah, dogs. Corey Davis. Corey Davis. I would never let that stat die. Every chance I get when it comes to these running backs. So when we do the NFC East and I talk about Saquon, when we do and Tony Pollard, and whenever Dalvin Cook decides to sign somewhere, allegedly Miami, maybe not. You know, we already talked about with Eckler, like Corey Davis, even Bijan Robinson makes more money than Austin Eckler. Like, so that's why it's so skewed. It's so skewed. But anyway, but the one that hits hard is Corey Davis. Scrub 0 KC, I got them just under. Okay, so you're taking the under. I think we're taking the under in the whole division. Am I taking the under on the Chiefs? Fifth hardest schedule. Let's see. Let's look up this actual schedule. I don't want to be that guy and do a whole thing of win-loss, but for the Chiefs, I kind of want to do that. Let's see. Let's get the season schedule. All right. Okay. Home against Detroit, opening night, Thursday night football kickoff. They should win that. At Jacksonville, rematch of the playoffs. They should win that. That's 2 wins. Bears should be improved. They should win that, though. That's 3-0. This is a good game here at the Jets. Week 4. That's tough. If Chris Jones is not back, I got the Jets. I might have the Jets even if Chris Jones is there. I think that this is a statement game for the Jets. I could see the Jets winning this game. But do we want to? All right. You know what? To make it fun, let's say the Chiefs win. They're 4-0. They sweep September. Okay? Sweep September. Vikings, Kirk Cousins, little Netflix quarterback face-off. That should be a win. Broncos, that should be a win. That's 7-0. 6-0, excuse me. 6-0. Chargers, you always find a way to beat the Chargers. So maybe that is 7-0. Broncos, they're going to sweep the Broncos. They played them 2 out of 3 weeks. That's tough to do against division rivals. Is this the only way the Broncos could get one off? Is by playing the Chiefs twice in a 3-week span. Do we want to be nice? We'll be nice. 7-1. 7-1. Dolphins. Tyreek Hill against his former team. Leading into the bye week. I like Miami a lot this year. I don't know. I don't see how that defense could stop them, though. 8-1 heading into the bye. Super Bowl rematch, Monday nighter off a bye week. You would like to think they could get that done. So what's that? That's 8-1, 9-1 against the Eagles, 10-1 against the Raiders. Good Lord. Can they run off about 12, 13 wins here? Packers with Jordan Love. Maybe they lose to Buffalo. Could they split with the Raiders? They should beat the Raiders twice. Patriots should be a dub. Bengals, Chargers. I mean, at most, I think 12 is a strong number. So what was the line? 11.5? I think I'm taking it over. I think I'm going over. Unless they lose a game they ain't supposed to lose, I see 12 wins. Yeah, unless they lose a game they're not supposed to, I see 12 wins. Now, obviously, injuries could be a thing, so on and so forth, but good Lord, I don't see a lot of losses on this schedule. I mean, Detroit with that offense, even though they won't have Jameson Williams, potentially they could be able to put some points up, especially if Chris Jones is not there. They could definitely do some work. They could unleash Gibbs and do some work in the run game with no Chris Jones. Very interesting to see how that goes. All right, let's see. All right, so you see toughest schedule for the first 6 weeks. You see the Chiefs are in there. But again, we just ran down that schedule. I don't know how tough that schedule is. Lions should be better, right? Jacksonville is a good team, but I think they could get them out the paint relatively easy. Bears will be better. I don't think they're ready yet. The Jets, that game could be a really exciting game. You see, it's a Sunday nighter. But I mean, I don't know. Vikings, I don't have a lot of faith in the Vikings. So like the first 6 weeks, and they got the Broncos on a Thursday nighter. So they got a lot of primetime games. Thursday nighter, week 6. Sunday nighter, week 4. And then the opening night on Thursday. So half of their games are prime time. If they could get out of this stretch like 5-1, I'm confident in the 12. If they're 4-2 out this 6-game stretch, then I think the under could be in play. Just off top. You know what I'm saying? Barring injuries, all that type of shit. Script Zero, if only it was at 1 p.m., I would take it the Vikings. Yeah, the Kirk Cousins in prime time thing. Script Zero, yeah, I'm going to revise that. KC, I got to go over seeing those teams. Yeah, sometimes I just have to look at it like strength of schedule is one metric, right? But then it's like, all right, well, let me see the flow of those games, though. And we always know that there's a few teams where, you know, they're highly thought of, and then they kind of spit the bit. So, Scrub Zero, the Jets could beat them, but I don't trust the QB. Woo! Shots at A-Raj. Well, we're going to see what it looks like in Hard Knocks tomorrow night, right? We're going to look at what it looks like. You know, they had their first preseason game. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers did not play, but we should see some good shit in Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks always does a good job of getting us hype. Although I don't know what we're going to see. I don't know if it's going to be an exciting. Again, I want to know who's going to be the in-season Hard Knocks. The in-season Hard Knocks greater than, you know, the preseason training camp Hard Knocks. You know, I'll even put that in the chat. Just my opinion, but the in-season Hard Knocks has been great. Been great. You're basically going through the latter half of the season with the team. In season, you're seeing real shit. It was the Cardinals last year with all the dysfunction, Kingsbury and Steve Keim, the GM, wilding in Mexico City, allegedly. The O-line coach took the fall again, allegedly. You saw the Kyler Murray stuff happen in real time. DeAndre Hopkins off the suspension. There was a lot of stuff going on. And then the year before that, it was the Colts. When the Colts had a chance to clinch a playoff spot against the Jaguars, and they tricked it off in that last game of the season. And that was against Urban Meyer, of all people. Like, it was phenomenal stuff. That's the stuff I want to see. The preseason stuff, it's kind of cliche at this point, but I'm more interested in who's going to be the in-season Hard Knock team. All right, let's see what else we got here. So that's the preview for the AFC West. I think it's pretty simple. The Chiefs are still by far and away the class of that division. The Chargers are a team that had the talent on one side of the ball to step up and make things happen, but unfortunately, the defense and the coaching staff, to me, are two humongous deterrents from them being able to cash in on what they have offensively. You move over to the Broncos. The Broncos have a new coach. The Broncos have a QB that they've paid a lot of money to with a new ownership group that, eats, sleeps, and breathes trying to maximize their ROI. That's something to watch for. And then they have two wide receivers that they were allegedly thinking about moving this past offseason. And their biggest free agency addition on defense was Frank Clark. Yeah, it's hard to believe in the Denver Broncos unless you are that much of a believer in the magic of Sean Payton. And then you have the Raiders, who are hamstrung, who have had a lot of upheaval in the front office and down on the field. And they really haven't done that much about it to fix it. They regressed at QB, going from Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo. Josh Jacobs is unhappy as the NFL's leading rusher, but he makes less money than Corey Davis. And it's just not a lot there. And they have the second hardest schedule in the entire league. So it's hard to believe in the Oakland Raiders. So I think the Chiefs run away and hide in this division. The Chargers, if they can get a wild card, I think that will be very fortunate for them because of how I think their defense plays. So, and how their coaching is very inept. I can see Derek Carr. Oh, Alexandra's in the house. Hey, Alexandra. I didn't even realize that was you. What's up, Alexandra? I can see Derek Carr being incredibly successful in New Orleans. I agree. He's got more weapons in New Orleans than he would have in in Las Vegas. Derek Carr didn't have a whole lot to work with for a lot of years, and then the terrible coaching staff. Agreed. Yeah, he was definitely holding it down on his own for a while there. Unfortunately, I think he got locked into some habits so that when they did finally get some help around him, when he had Waller. I mean, look, going into last year, that was another team that on paper, that offense looked like it should have been something. If we're talking about Darren Waller, we're talking about Josh Jacobs, we're talking about you're bringing in Devonta Adams. That's A-level across the board. You had an A-level tight end, an A-level running back, and an A-level number one wide receiver. If you're Derek Carr, that should have been his best statistical year ever. But it was far from. And a lot of that had to do with McDaniels. But unfortunately, as we saw with these -7 turnover differential, a lot of that also had to do with Derek Carr. Alexander, the Cardinals are craptastic from the top down. Yeah, unfortunately, you can't get rid of an owner. But that's where the problems start. And you notice how everyone else has been let go except the owner. And that's just kind of the unfortunate part of it. Bidwell's out there too busy, flying jets, across the desert instead of making sure he's putting the right football people in place to, fix up this franchise. Scrub Zero. Derek Carr hasn't been the same since that injury late in his third year. He may have been a top 10, top 5 guy without the injury, but now he's just a guy. There's something to that. There is something to that. He was ascending, and he looked to be the part, right? Not in the way that me and Boogie Down usually use it, but he looked to be the part in terms of he looked to be a dude that could be like Scripps, you were saying, like a top 10 guy, top 5, I don't know, but you definitely for sure he looked like he a guy that could be a top 10, and they were certainly trying to position him to be that. And yeah, he just never seemed to recover. But last year would have been the year to me. I bring in your mans from college, Devonta Adams. We already got Waller, even though, he's gone through a lot of issues off the field and injury-wise. But he looked to be a guy that, in this offense with now Devonta, he was put up numbers when he had no number one wide receiver. So now his job should be that much more easier if we're bringing in Devonta Adams, who commands, if not your best DB, at least bracket coverage. That's one less guy to harass Darren Waller. And whether it was the play calls or the design of the scheme, I felt that should have been a really good offense. What it just turned out to be was Devonta Adams put up his numbers no matter what. And then he has Josh Jacobs, leading the league in rushing. But unfortunately, that tight end factor just was not there. Whether it was Darren Waller or Foster Moreau was a little better, but not that much better. And they didn't even bring him back. And then they went and they drafted Michael Mayer. So Alexander, I think the Chargers could be a sleeper team. Sleeper in terms of a wild card? I don't think they're a sleeper for the division. That defense just isn't good enough to me. Unless the Chiefs are hit with some injury stuff, I don't see it for the Chargers. They could be a sleeper for a wild card. His numbers aren't bad, though. Actually has a good arm, and he hasn't been with good coaching. No, I think there is something to that. I definitely think there is something to that. I just think right now, even though the coaching wasn't... All right, so here's a difficult thing to navigate when it comes to football sometimes, right? It's like, okay, I have Devonta Adams, I have Darren Waller, and I have Josh Jacobs, and I have a good offensive line. If Derek Carr is a upper half QB, I ain't even going to put top 10 on, just upper half. If you're top 16, whether the system is shit or not, you shouldn't have the turnovers that he had. That's not coaching. That's not scheme. That's you. Most turnovers, especially interceptions, are on the quarterback. Even though we can, tip balls happen and all that stuff, so that's fine. But most interceptions are on the quarterback. So it's like, yeah, we could put a lot of it on McDaniels and, Gruden before them and all the different coordinators throughout the years and the subpar talent. But the last few years, he's had the talent around him. And it just really hasn't. Now, I think he'll do well in New Orleans. Got Kamara. They got some good young wide receivers. They got a tight end. Like, they got some things going there in New Orleans. So I think he'll be fine there. I think it was a good move. He was low-key trying to be a Jet. But the Jets were just, googly eyes with Aaron Rodgers. So they was like, nah, I'm good. I'm good, Derek. You go ahead down there to the boot. And he went down there to the boot and signed a deal. And I think he'll be better for it. He fits better in New Orleans than up here in the North in the Tri-State. Scrub Zero. I know it's not all on Card not having this success. He's been in some bad situations, but he's compounded some of that himself, which is something he couldn't afford to do. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the, let's see. Let's see if we can pull it up real quick. Football Reference. First time Football Reference in the house for the 2023-2024 season. Let's see. Derek Carr. All right. Get the screen back up. Boom. $24 touchdowns to 14 interceptions last year. Let's see. Took a lot of sacks a couple of years ago. Yeah, like Scrub Zero said, when you look at he was third in MVP voting. I know he had a good year that year, but I didn't realize he was third in MVP voting. Can y'all see that? Let me make sure. Nope, y'all cannot see that. Let me move myself. Doing this with the power of Ecamm live streaming capabilities done by Ecamm Live. If you want to learn about that, the link is in the description. It is an affiliate link. Appreciate the support if you do decide to up your content creating game using Ecamm Live. So yeah, he was third in MVP voting. That's a good little run here for him. 12-3, 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Who was on this team? Jack Del Rio. Oh, Latavius Murray. Oh, Mari Cooper, Crabtree. Okay. Salute to Marquette King, who's been blackballed. He'll never get to play in the NFL ever again. I don't know how you're a punter and you get blackballed, but leave it to the black punter to get blackballed. Let's see. But yeah, that was a good roster. But if you look at the last few years, completion percentage has been something that's been so overblown because the checkdowns and the dump offs and hitting guys in the flat and these little 3-yard routes has like really inflated completion percentage numbers. So it's almost to the point where I only look at completion percentage if it's really high or really low. Like you can be mid and still have 60 to 70% completion percentage just because, you're doing dump offs if nothing's open. You just dump it off to the back. You get 2-3 yards. You go to second down. Like, you could just rinse and repeat that. Like, completion percentage way overblown. Unless it's like, what was it? Anthony Richardson had like a sub 50% or something. He like in the 50s, and that was stark. Like, oh wow, you're not even 50%. That's when you look at the numbers. But like 60 to 70, like that's like, to me, that's like inflated numbers. Let's see. Alexander. Yeah, and I think he will have that success in New Orleans with all the coaching help that he's going to get in New Orleans. New Orleans probably the last couple of years was New Orleans problem. New Orleans problem last couple of years was QB, let's be honest. Yeah, that in health. They've had some issues. Winston isn't getting you to a Super Bowl. No, he's not. No, he is definitely not. He could get you some W's, right? He could get you some W's, but definitely not a Super Bowl. Winston want to get you Super Bowl. Scrub Zero. Winston want to get you Super Bowl, but Winston wasn't given the support that some other quarterbacks have gotten. The Saints have had some other key issues outside of the QB. Yeah, the Saints, I wish my guy Mark was here. He's the homie. He's a big Saints guy. He's tapped into what's going on over there. I'm sure he'll be pulling up at some point. Hopefully when we do the NFC South, he'll be able to pull up. Alexander Winston had 5 years, and he gave the game away and got benched for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yeah, look, I don't think anyone should be caping for Jameis Winston, right? The Saints' problems, I don't think are solely Jameis Winston. There's a lot there. There's a lot of names on that defense that haven't really lived up to it. Kamara, even before his most recent suspension, just, is he really him or is he a name? It's a legit question to me, I think. Chip Zero, we saw some questionable management decisions at the end of Sean Payton's tenure at NO, and it's hamstring the team to some degree. No, I agree with that. I think, yeah, certainly tricking off the QB will beset any franchise, right? Hard stop. So them not being able to have a guy in waiting after the Drew Brees thing was done, That was a mismanagement from the top on down, period. Now, were there other issues? Yes. Michael Thomas, what the fuck's going on there? Like, seriously, what's happening? Now, they have some youngins that I think will help ease the pain of just the Michael Thomas thing just coming and going. But that was the thing. You had a coach, you had a franchise QB, and you had a number one wide receiver. And within the span of a year and a half, all three are all gone or inconsequential. That's a lot for a roster to take. That's a lot for a franchise to just retool on the fly. It's hard enough to replace one of those three. You had a number one wide receiver, a franchise QB, and a linchpin Super Bowl winning head coach, and all three were out the door or irrelevant in under a year and a half to 2 years. So, yeah, I'm not going to put that on Jameis. He was a stopgap no matter what the situation was. He was never supposed to be the answer. He may have thought he could have been the answer, but no one in their right mind who watches football ever thought Jameis would be the actual answer at quarterback. Alexandra, I will agree on questionable moves in management and NO. Script 009, certainly not capable for Winston. I just know he wasn't the only problem and he wasn't given a full deck. No, I'm with you, Scrub Zero. I'm just saying, like, I think Alexandra thinks we're trying to cape. And I'm like, no, it's not that. It's just we're not going to put it all on Jameis. Like, certainly Jameis is not a franchise QB, right? I mean, you could argue that was even the case in college when you look at the weapons he had, but we'll let that slide, right? But he was never thought to be the guy. I just think it was never thought to be the guy, but to replace what they had to replace in short order, they kind of just took what was available. And you can always try to sell yourself on, all right, yeah, Jameis is the QB that had 30 interceptions in a season, but he also had 30 touchdowns in a season too. And you could just talk yourself into that. Not saying you're justified in doing that, but in trying to sell to a fan base and trying to sell to media and trying to sell to, players in that locker room, we could say, look, yeah, Jameis had that rough 30 pick year, but he also had 30 tutties as well. So, I think it's a lot there. I think it's a lot there. All right, let's see. We will come off that for a sec. I'll do a quick check of, let's see. What's up with our guy Dove real quick. See if it has anything breaking. Let's see. Let's get the zoom. I don't see that much here. Shanahan says he doubts Brock Purdy will play week 1 of the preseason. Yeah, that's not that shocking. All right, looks like we're not missing that much. Baker Mayfield to start. Where's Alexandra? Baker Mayfield to start week 1. Are you a lot of people are high on Kyle Trask? Alexandra, what's up? Jameson Table was given a full deck. Yeah, he was. And that's I think, especially that 30-30, that was the best and the worst of Jameis. Some of the throws for some of those touchdowns were top tier. And some of those picks that he had were laughable. Like outright, CFL level. Like, so that's kind of the problem with Jameis. Peak Jameis is 30 touchdowns. The worst of Jameis is 30 picks. We saw what happens when you do both in the same year. the team was up and down every single week, depending on which Jameis would show up. And you just can't invest in a team's future with that as your quarterback. If we're going to keep making this the most important position in the sport, in all of sports, you can't have a guy whose highest of highs is 30 TDs and lowest of lows is 30 interceptions. Let's see. All right, we're not missing nothing there. So let me come off that. We will wrap it up here in a second just to make sure we're good here in the chat. I appreciate those who've been pulling up. If y'all could hit the like button before we get up out of here, I would appreciate that, and the algorithm would too. Alexander, I think the Broncos better make the playoff run or Russell Wilson is done. I think in normal circumstances that would be the case, but that contract is so horrible. I think he gets another year. I think after next year, I think that's the year they can move where there's a little bit of flexibility in that contract to where they can do some maneuvering there. But I think he gets another year, no matter what happens, unless they find a sucker to take his contract, which I just can't see it. But, I think because of the way that contract is structured, it would take an astronomical collapse of a year for Russell to be moved after this year because that contract has so much loaded into it. Alexandra, I don't have a problem with Baker or Trask, although I like Trask more. Yeah, I've been hearing Trask. Trask's been killing it. But Baker's getting the start in week 1, but it's preseason. Who gives a shit? Seriously. Oh, man. Scrub Zero, shout out to No Risk It, Biscuit, Bryce Arians, and Bruce Arians in this offense, and James getting high and low that year. Yeah, it was a weird time. It was a weird time. That 30-30. We need a 30 for 30 on Jameis's 30-30. We really need that. The streets need that. All right, so here's the layout for the rest of the week and for the next coming weeks. So we're going to do Mondays and Thursdays. I'm going to be doing live streams with divisional previews, right? So obviously today, AFC West. On Thursday, we're going to do the NFC West, okay? That's how we're going to do it. We're going to do each week 2 divisions, leading up until obviously the beginning of the season. And I think that's where we go there. Let me see. Do I have the community thing here? Yes, I do. All right, so if you didn't get a chance to hit the community tab, as you see here, I'll put it there, try to interact, let y'all know what's coming up. So AFC West today, NFC West on Thursday. Next week will be the South Division. So AFC South next Monday, NFC South next Thursday, and so on and so forth. The week after that, it will be the East, the AFC first, then NFC on that Thursday. And then the last week will be the AFC North and then the NFC North. So just so you have a preview, each week, 2 streams, each stream, 1 division, over-unders, additions, departures, strength of schedule, so on and so forth. So just want to give y'all a preview of what we're going to be doing. I'll see y'all on Thursday. Again, I still hold it. If anything happens with James Harden or Damian Lillard, I'll pop up, but it ain't looking like shit gonna happen anytime soon. So, it might be football season by the time Dame may or may not be moved. So who the hell knows? But anyway, we on to football. Appreciate y'all for pulling up. Going to be doing some tech content. If you want to be a content creator, I'm going to be teaching some of the things that, I've been working in media behind the scenes for 14, 15 years. So I've learned a lot about which equipment, whether it's professional level or consumer level. So I'll be doing a lot of stuff around that in addition to some of the NFL content. So if you're interested in wanting to be a content creator or just interested in just tech like I am, make sure to lock in, giving you some different type of content as opposed to just, my hot takes and opinions and going back and forth with y'all. So hopefully y'all enjoy that type of content. Trying to grow here, trying to build, show more of myself, Yes, I could do hot takes. Yes, I could do live streams. I could do the podcast and all that stuff. But also, I have a real interest for technology. Yeah, I know how I feel about sports media, me working in it for about 14, 15 years. So obviously, whenever Skip, I kind of know what he's going to do, but can't say it yet. But when he does announce it, I know y'all get in the stream. We can then talk all about it. So appreciate y'all for pulling up. Let me get the vibes ready. There we go. Get the vibes on the outro. Thank y'all for pulling up. Scrub Zero, I see you. Alexandra, thank you. For those that pulled up earlier, Boogie Down, Corey, all the rest of y'all pulling up. Salute to y'all. For those who catch the replay, feel free to tap in on the comments. Don't be scared. I'm in the comments heavy. So, we see how that goes. I will see y'all Thursday for the NFC West. There might be a sleeper in the NFC West. We'll cross that bridge once we get there. We'll sneak in Alexandra on the way out. I would say they could still make the playoffs if defense steps up the Chargers. That's the thing, Alexandra. I have no faith in that Chargers defense. Maybe you have more faith in them than I do. I just see Bosa and Khalil Mack and not much else. And to be quite honest, 2 edge rushers doesn't do it for me. You have no interior line play. I got no faith in your D-line. So that's my opinion on it. Feel free to hit the comments. But for these, Sam B, this has been Timeline T, the 2023 AFC West preview edition of Timeline T. I will catch y'all Thursday for the NFC West. Salute.